Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. I am Amy, along here with my sister Molly. We help high-achieving women increase their income, but most importantly, their impact. We are neighbors, sisters, and business partners. We have built 8-figure businesses together, traveled the world together, raised our children together, mentored thousands of men and women together, and it's all because we have a penthouse mindset. We aim for the top, and we show others how to empower themselves to peel back the layers and truly step into their greatness and calling. Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. I am Amy Mosser with my sister Molly Kroeker. We are here and we help high-achieving women increase their income, but more importantly, their impact. And today, I'm going to let Molly introduce one of her favorite people on this planet.
Hello, friends, and I'm so excited for you to meet Dr. Jennie Brunning Brown, and I refer to her as JBB, and you're going to love how we met, but I always say we just interview people that have penthouse energy, and she definitely is one of those people that does. So we're going to start in with just a little bit about just like her background, but then we're going to get to the good stuff of what we were talking about when we were like off air. So Jennie, like, tell us a little bit, where are you from? All the good stuff. I want you to like, don't leave out the details because your background is so fascinating to me and I love it.
Well, thanks, you guys. Super excited to be chatting with you in this way. This is fun. Well, so, my life story, I won't go through that whole thing, but I started out here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm back here now. But I went to undergraduate here in Lincoln. I went to law school here in Lincoln. I practiced law for about a year. And then I moved out to the Bay Area to just kind of pursue my dream out there. Super scary move, but one of the 5 best decisions I've ever made in my life. And probably because it was one of the scariest things. Packed up a U-Haul and just moved out there with no job and a law degree. I was out in California for about 10 years. I started out thinking I was going to have to practice law and was going to take the California bar exam. But all the while I was teaching fitness out there and was wanting just more than anything to go to Stanford. And so I'm teaching fitness and I applied to Stanford and I got in the middle of all of the, thinking I was going to have to go work at a law firm. And then I just threw that out the window. I was like, thank goodness I don't have to go to law school because I got into my PhD program at Stanford. And then I started going to school there and started a fitness company while I was in school there. It was called Victory Lap. It was outdoor fitness and personal training and that kind of thing. And that actually paid for whatever school I couldn't pay for, which was like awesome. Truly. Yeah, it was great. And it was perfectly timed too, because it was, early in the morning. So I could go teach classes early at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. And then I didn't have classes until, they were usually like 9:30, 10 classes. So it worked perfectly for that. And then even like late afternoons, I could come back and teach if I needed to. And actually the fitness company got so big that I had to hire people. So that actually helped as well. So yeah, it was really just amazing how it all happened. And so I got my PhD out there and then I worked for a couple of years it seems so funny now. I worked in San Francisco at a place called Tickle, which was
like the deodorant.
It's so funny. Oh my gosh, I forgot about the deodorant. That was from like
the deodorant.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I always think of.
Do they have that anymore? Tickle deodorant?
I don't think so.
I'm guessing maybe it was so toxic that like it's not sold, but maybe if somebody knows what we're talking about and you see a Tickle at your local Dollar General.
I love that. That is like so brings me back. I forgot about that. Yeah. So it's funny. I don't even know the name Tickle. It was a social media company that had like 3 areas, which were testing, like what kind of dog are you or how smart are you? And then they had matchmaking, like Hinge or whatever. And then they had just like an advertising piece. And I worked in the testing part. I was the head of the testing. So we designed and developed tests. And so I was the research scientist behind that. So that was really fun.
This is like early. Like years wise, where is this? When you were working before social media boom?
It was actually. So it was right when like basically the internet. So this is in like 2002, 2003, 2004. Yeah. So it was really like right when the internet, it was like an early adopter of that. Yeah. And so like we had hundreds of thousands of people on our matchmaking site. And so that was also fun. I got to write, it was crazy. I had so much great data because I could analyze what people were saying, but I wrote the test also to help. I helped write the test. I didn't write that one fully, but to help match people with, it was basically the question of, are you best matched with someone who's similar to you, that like, how do they communicate? Is it in a way that you communicate, or are they how is their energy? Do they have like sit at a 5 and they're kind of mellow, or are they like the 1s and the 10s? Like they have the full range of emotion, right? Like who do you match better with? And that was a question, right? Based on research and how people fall in love or stay in love or stay married and that kind of thing. So it was really interesting and fun. And the company was cool too, because it was a completely that .com era where, people are riding around on scooters, and like, it was downtown San Francisco, and like everyone's like knocking beach balls around, and they had game rooms where they're playing foosball or or foosball or whatever it's called. I don't even know.
And that's 2002. This is not like,
No.
today. Like this
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, they were such a like young company, right? And at the time I was like, I don't even know, maybe 30, right? So I was probably 30, 31. And so maybe I was 32. We moved back to Lincoln while I was still working at Tickle. I got pregnant with our first child, Parker, our daughter. I got pregnant with her, and I was still working at Tickle. I worked there for a while after we had moved to Lincoln. So I would commute back and forth. But the funny thing was, so I have this baby, and I'm literally probably the only person that has a child, because everyone else there's like 22 and I'm 31 or whatever. So they had to make the game room into a nursing room for me so that I could like pump. I wasn't obviously with Parker, but I had to pump. So they had to use it as like, and it had like, the windows were not like, they were kind of frosted, but not really. So I remember sitting in there with my pump and being like, this is like so new. I'm sure they were all, and it was like mostly guys because they're all engineers, right? And so they're like, what is happening? So yeah, so I basically.
Who is this blonde bombshell from Nebraska that is like doing something bizarre with her boobs? We're not really sure.
It was so bizarre, the whole thing. But it was actually really great because I got to fly back and forth, and I would go there right when I had little kids, right? They were little, and I would fly back and forth and go to Tickle and work in the city. And then I would come back to Lincoln. It was like a really ideal life in the way that I think about it, because there's just such high energy going on. And then I would come back here, and then I actually started working with the athletics department with the Huskers. And so I kind of had both things going on. And then my company actually got bought by Tickle got bought by Monster Jobs. I don't know if Monster Jobs is still, yeah, they got bought. So at that point I left Tickle and then just went full on into the athletic department here and started doing that full on. So yeah. And then so basically I worked for the athletic department, and I was doing sports psychology and kind of had a few clients on the side. I had a lot of different little things going on. And then in 13, 14, I've always taught fitness like on the side. And so I just was really dissatisfied with what options there were here in Lincoln compared to what like the Bay Area had. And I just thought I could do something like what we did in Palo Alto and just create something kind of bigger and better. And so in 2013 or 14, I started looking at spaces. I was trying to find somebody who wanted to go into it with me. I really wanted a partner because doing it on your own is super scary. So
exactly. I remember those days.
Right. And I couldn't find anybody that just had the same vision or anything. So I ended up just doing it, and we found our space and opened Fly in 2015. And then the story from there is basically just, we opened the first one downtown in 2015. We opened South Lincoln in 2018. We had investors come in, wanted to open in North Dakota because they loved it and they wanted to bring that to their community. So then they opened their first one in 2019. They opened a second one in 2021. And then we opened Loveland this spring of 2024, and we will be opening Omaha in the fall. So that's the story.
Well, and I love because it started out, I'm going to take you all back, because fitness for you started back, well, always, but Chase Fitness, like, and we did not go to a small school in Lincoln. I went to Wesley and you went to UNL. We did not know each other then, but I remember driving by and like looking, that's where all the cheerleaders worked out, and like
it was
up there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so hard. And I will tell you then, I went to Jenny's class, and it is still to this day the hardest class I've ever done. And I'm like Jenny, like I will go to fitness classes in France. I'll go Amsterdam, Chicago, New York. I love working out. That's obviously why we're friends. But I remember looking up there and I was way too scared. I didn't have the confidence to even go in there, but that's kind of where don't you think, is that where your love of fitness? I mean, it was
Totally.
huge.
Totally. I mean, I've been doing, classes since forever. In fact, this is actually funny. I don't know. Do you guys know who Stephanie Stacy is? She's a
Yeah.
judge here in town now, and she used to be an attorney.
Yeah.
And well, she's still an attorney, but now she's a judge, Judge Stacy.
Yeah.
And I remember like being so, yes, Chase Fitness, I will speak to that. But even before that, at the Racket Club, back when I was 15 years old, I went to one of her classes and I was so like enamored with her and inspired by her. She was like, must have been in college and she was teaching fitness. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to be like that. And I told her that, like, I saw her at Starbucks and I told her that. And she was like, are you kidding? And it was like, yeah, but she was so inspiring. And so then I think that led me to Chase Fitness. And then the Chases are just, like Bob Chase was like
They're iconic.
my idol, right? Yeah, he's an icon. And Chase Fitness was the very first boutique fitness that I ever knew of. And it was like the best. I mean, like the windows would steam up. We would be like looking out on the people outside at night and we'd all be in there and it was packed full of people. And the cheerleaders were there. It was so much fun. And I started going there when I was like, 18 years old. And then I started teaching and that was really the start of it all. And yeah, it was incredible. So,
well, and I look at that and you're always so humble to just kind of breeze over. Like, I love that you practice law. And I think this is so important because so many of you listening might not love what you do and you've invested a lot of years and it's not easy to get in law school and all that stuff. And you knew after a year, even though your brother was a successful attorney, it's like, this isn't for me. I don't love this. Okay, I'm going to move. I'm going to see if moving helps. Like maybe that'll help. Like I'll go to California. And then I love that you got into Stanford to do something you really wanted to do. And you put yourself through Stanford through fitness again, which was unheard of in the 90s. Like,
that's so interesting that you say that because I think I feel like, so I had an advisor at Stanford and he called it planned happenstance. He's actually like a really famous career vocational psychologist. And he was just like the most humble, amazing person. John Crumbles is his name. But anyway, he called it planned happenstance. And he said that basically, if you put yourself in a position to accept the things that come into your life, then those things will come in. And I think like at the time I moved to California, I really had no idea. I was like, this is terrifying because I didn't. And I worked as a hostess at Gordon Biersch Brewery and was working teaching boot camps in the morning before I started Victory Lab. And I hadn't got into Stanford. And I basically was like, okay, my backup plan is to be an attorney. Like I'm going to take the bar. I'm going to put my resume out to all these places. And I knew it was just not what I wanted, but I was like, I have to have something, right? But by putting myself out there, I started having opportunities, right? I mean, I applied to Stanford. Obviously that was a huge opportunity I got in. But like even opening and starting Victory Lab, I was working for another woman teaching her boot camps. And it grew and grew and grew. Her company did. She had a business advisor come in and they said, and she was paying me based on like all of the things I was doing. Like I was doing all the advertising. I was kind of doing everything, right? And he said, you're going to have to start paying Jenny just like an instructor because now she's brought on 3 other instructors. She has, there's like 100 people in these classes, right? So we had to have a lot of staff. The advisor said, you're going to have to start paying her like basically as an instructor, and you can't pay her the way you were paying her. And it was at that time, like I loved what I was doing, right? I loved teaching those classes, but I was like, that's not fair and it's not okay. Like I've grown these, I really must have a skill for this. And so I felt like I just couldn't stay there. And so it was that another kind of planned happenstance. People said, Jenny, we will come with you if you build something, right? And so I basically was like, okay, well, I guess I will, right? It was kind of like the opportunity presented itself. And I think it's hard to make decisions unless you kind of allow yourself to kind of be in a situation that might not be what you're normally in, because I probably would have been practicing law. I probably would have had I not had other things that came up when I was just putting feelers out. So I think to your point of like, I think the law degree is something that I put as a backup, but like, you don't always know it within that first year. Like you can't always make that jump within the first year. It might be a couple or 5 or 10. And then you're like, okay, now those things are in place and I'm ready to take the jump. I have enough things there that I have a little bit of a safety net. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, same thing. I mean, I just left my career 10 years later. So, but I just love that you moved out there. You didn't have a clue. And then the fact that you put Victory lap together, and that paid your way through Stanford. Like just some small little rinky dink. I mean, it grew and it grew and it grew. And I mean, you were telling me like we had walkie talkies all over campus, and like we were like managing this massive fitness studio outside that really you didn't have a brick and mortar.
Right. I didn't. And that actually was like, it kept the cost way down, which was fantastic. Right. So there was no real overhead other than advertising and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic business model, honestly, because we had, in California, you can do that too, because the weather is usually like pretty cooperative. And when it's raining, you can get under places and stuff, but I didn't have to pay for a location. I kept all the equipment in my car. So I just drove around in my Pathfinder and had all the stuff in the back. So yeah, I was doing it right. All the cones, I had cones and ladders and all the sorts of stuff. So yeah,
You're always ahead of your time, always ahead of your time, which really led you to fly. And I think we met in the way Jenni and I met, which I think is so fun, is I was looking over her shoulder. And so now we've fast forwarded, we've got phones now and we've moved past flip phones. And so she's got her vision board on her phone and I have my vision board on my phone. And we both had Kansas half Ironman, 70.3 half Ironman on our phones. And I looked over your shoulder and I'd heard about you, and I think you said the same thing. I'd heard about you, but I was like, we should be friends. Like we have the same race on our phone. And like instantly we became like the best of friends. Like we would meet at workout class. Like I just remember you building that vision even of fly and wanting to leave. And like people, of course, are going to say like, you're crazy. Boutique fitness back then, big box fitness centers were the only thing, right? Big, huge clubs that took up a lot of space and 90,000 square feet, whatever it is, big
right.
clubs, not fitness boutiques. People are not going to go somewhere that they don't have childcare and all the things, specific classes. They're not open 24 hours and all that. So that had to be scary again. Like, boom, I'm going to go out and create a brand. It's not like you could buy a franchise and bring it, but you knew what you wanted. You had a clear vision.
What's funny is I'm just thinking about, and I'm so sorry, I'm distracted and laughing about the way we met because I'm thinking about your Ironman training versus my Ironman training. We did both have it on our vision board. However, I had no goggles and a bikini and you had your flippers and you were fully prepared for what you were going into. Me, I was a little impulsive. You're like, what have you done to prepare? No, I mean, that wasn't a conversation, but if you had asked. And then do you remember you told me about the protein bar recipe? And I thought I was going to take that on my bike for my Ironman while it's wrapped in like saran wrap. And I'm thinking I'm going to ride a bike and open this homemade protein bar. It was the one snack I brought. The one snack. And I'm like, Molly told me about this and I'm unwrapping it. And I like, am riding on my bike and the whole thing falls on the ground. I had nothing left. I was like, okay, Molly obviously had done a lot more preparation, had a lot more knowledge on this situation. Anyway, sorry, I was distracted. I thought that was so
Gatorade, fun. Didn't you have like your hydration,
yes,
like flip over and pour all over your socks? And so like
before I even started the race, everything was soaking wet. It was like my one hydration. Spilled all over my socks, everything. So I'm like having to put on wet socks to get on my bike. I was like, yeah. So at the end of that race, I don't know if I told you I was running and running was I was great at running, right? That was my thing. I could do everything else. I didn't really know. So I'm running along and I'm feeling good because I'm like, I know I can do these miles. I can take this out. And people were offering, like goo along the way. And so I'm like, I haven't had anything. And I'd never trained eating goo. I'd never had any of those kind of things. And I'm like sucking them down like they're frosting. And by the end, I had probably had like 4 or 5 goos because it was like vanilla frosting. And I was so like ill. I was like, this was a really poorly planned. So yeah, I don't know if it was my best moment, but I did it. So,
but you know what? I will say this, you have a freaking fierce, strong mindset. I mean, that's the thing about you is whatever you say you're going to do, you're going to do it. And that's probably why what attracted me to you is I'm like, whatever she ever says she's going to do, she does it. Like,
that's true. I won't say it if I'm not going to. But that's true.
I was just going to say that you don't know. I think that fear factor and the how it's going to happen holds 95% of the people back. You and Molly and I, we go and the how comes. We don't know how. We didn't have the protein bar, or you don't know what you're going to do in California, but you follow your intuition and head out and take action. And I love that. That's why you're so successful.
That's really true. And I think I heard a quote somewhere. I mean, it's not exactly like this, but it's something about like basically, I'm afraid of something every single day, but I just step into it. Basically, I know I'm going to be afraid, but I just go into it because there are things I am afraid of every single day, but I do them anyway. And that's the truth. Like, I think, every single day there's something I'm a little bit afraid of. And I usually know that those things, if I have a little bit of nervousness about it, it's probably a good bet to go forward in it. I mean, not like scared in a way that like your intuition saying like, I don't trust that guy or I don't trust that person over there like that, but more like if I feel uncomfortable, like right now we have a whole group of people training for our Omaha studio. And it's one of the greatest times for me because we watch them, they audition and they come in there and there's just like this nervous excitement and getting up on the podium for the first time. And when they have to put a microphone on and they have to like really put themselves out there, it's like such a beautiful thing to see people doing that because it's something so many of these people have wanted for so long. They basically have like a playlist that they've had for years, a lot of them. And I'm like, well, why didn't you audition before? Like, because it takes people, it's not always going to be, in fact, it's probably never going to be the exactly right moment, to have a baby or to get a different job. It's never going to be exactly right. But when you have enough pieces of that where safety net where you can be like, okay, I think I can do it, but I'm not sure. And I kind of doubt it, but you start thinking you might be able to, you just got to jump in. You just got to go, especially if you keep ruminating on it. Like you just got to do it. So, cause you're always going to be afraid to do something big or past what you've done before, always.
Well, I even think about like you have such a welcoming way, and I love this about your studio, is the people that need to be in there are not the people that are ripped and fit, but that's why people get so scared to go into a place is they're like, I don't look like that. And I mean, I even get scared because once I get out of the habit of spinning, of like pushing myself the way I do when I'm with you, I even get like, I don't sleep well the night before. And I'm like, I'm friends with Jenni, but I'm like, holy Moses, here we go. This is going to be like a challenge. And I'm always so grateful. It doesn't matter Iron Man or not. Like it like challenges me and it scares me, but I always am happy that I do it. And I love how the whole purpose of Fly is like, we see you, we love you. You are seen, heard, and loved here, and come as you are, like be who you are. And, I love that you're like, Jenni and I are in our 50s and like, you're like, well, and Amy too, but like, I'm taking my shirt off. I'm working out in a sports bra. And I remember the first time that I ran in just like a sports bra, I was like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. And I just love how you just love people because that's how it should be. Like everyone brings wonderful things to the table.
Well, what's interesting about that is there are two things. I was thinking about the sports bra thing, that was a process for me. I don't know if I told you that, but that actually was a process. Like a couple of years ago, I just decided I have a lot of people, all ages, all sizes coming to Fly. And if I don't, nobody feels great about their body. I mean, maybe some people feel awesome about their body all the time, but it doesn't matter if you're a supermodel or whatever. People feel like they have flaws and nobody feels like they're perfect. So for me, I actually said, I need to just be like, I have to just own my body. I work really hard. I am who I am. I am in my 50s and I feel strong and I don't weigh myself. I just want to feel strong and healthy. And I do. And so a couple of years ago, I just made myself take my tank top off and just wear a jog bra. And I went in there and I knew I couldn't, I had a microphone on. I was like, I can't put my shirt back on. And it was like a week of classes I did that. And I was like wanting so badly to put I think one time I did put my shirt back on, but I was like, it's not okay if I demonstrate something other than, acceptance of who I am. Like I have to be comfortable with the extra skin or whatever I don't like and just be like, this is me. Because if I don't model that, then other people aren't going to feel that. And I think that, it's interesting that you feel stressed about coming to class because I think like that's so much inside whoever we are. Like you are a perfectionist. You are a competitor, like such a competitor. And so for you coming into class, you're like thinking all these things, right? Like the reason you're stressed is because you're like, what if I am not perfect? What if I can't keep up? Like that's the total competitor's feeling. But the reality is that like, there's no keeping up. Like everybody's just doing their best to like find their own rhythm and find their own center and find their own, fit, strong place. And so nobody's looking at you. Nobody's like comparing themselves and saying like, she is not doing what she should be. Like that's all in you, right? Like And the
Right.
beauty of that's the beauty of how we think about things. It's like anytime we feel that way, we're like, why am I feeling that? Oh, because I'm feeling like I need to be a certain way. But you don't, right? Like you
Right.
don't. So I don't know. I just think that's funny. Like, I don't want you to be stressed, by the way, coming to my class. I want you to
Oh,
just
no, I
like,
think it's like nervous excitement, right? And I always think, gosh, if I feel like this, like, how does, like, that's why I'm always like, so make sure you see everybody, especially the person that feels like they definitely don't belong there. So I'm like, that's
right.
the person, like, that's who you want to see. And you guys do such a great job at that. And not just you, but everybody that works for you. It's definitely just a culture that you've woven through there, that it is a community. And that is something super unique that you've done, Jenny. And I love that. And so before we hopped on here, we were talking about life-changing things. And I think this is fun because, it's good to be silly. Like, sometimes I listen to so many podcasts. I was talking to my friend about this. I go, today I'm having my own concert in my car. And I was just like singing away. I opened the sunroof. I'm like, raising my hand out through the sunroof, like, like I'm at a rock concert. And so those are like, we were talking about, okay, favorite things that are life-changing. To me, that was life-changing. What is something that is life-changing to you currently?
Well, I mean, I was thinking about habits or whatever things, and also in my life that I kind of try to do regularly that feel really good. And like, obviously things that feel really good, some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller, like a cup of coffee, like we were talking about, like a certain size of coffee every day, having that, it just feels really good. It's like a ritual, right? And I love that.
Even if
I
you
love,
take 3 sips out of it,
right.
it's good.
I love it. Right. I know. Oh, you still have it. There you go. What is that exactly, Amy? Is iced coffee with a little bit of cream or something, or what's in there?
A venti ice brown sugar shaken oat milk espresso.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So I love that. So here's what I do though. I like to have less ice in that so that it doesn't get
Oh,
watered down. So I always
watery.
get that
Okay.
light ice. And then of course, because I'm a caffeine maniac, I get a really lot of shots in that. I won't tell you how many because that would not be
I
something
forget
I
you
want
do
everyone
It
to know.
would make your heart stop. It would.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently it's unsafe. So yeah,
that.
not for me. Not for me.
Apparently.
But
It
it's
is.
something that you absolutely brings you joy. And so it's
It
like,
totally does. Totally does. Yeah.
Yeah, I can pretty much guarantee that I run into you at Starbucks, can't I?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Out south, yeah.
yeah, I go to a lot of the Starbucks. Yeah.
or if we meet up later in the day, you're always like, I've already been here twice. I'm like, I know. Right.
I mean, the problem with that is I like Starbucks. I also go to the mill. I love the mill. So it
I do
depends
too.
on my mood,
Yes.
for what kind of iced coffee I like. But yeah, I definitely, oh my gosh, we were just in Europe. We were in Greece and in Germany. And I know you guys have been there, but like their coffee is like, I probably ordered 8 coffees a day because you basically just get like, I'm not kidding. I would go at all times of the day because their cappuccinos, their espresso, even just their espresso had like this amazing, beautiful foam on the top. And that to me is like a dessert. And I was just like in heaven. I was in coffee heaven. So yeah.
I would agree. Calvin pointed out, he's like, that's my husband. He's like, that is whole milk. Like, that's why it was so yummy. And I was like, that was so yummy. Because we had a little man, Mario, that would make us whatever we wanted in the morning when we were in Croatia. And like, it was the best, same thing. It was like the best coffee I've ever had. Like
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
better than Italy. I hate to say that for all you.
I think the same thing. I actually think Greek coffee was better than Italian coffee. And I don't really know why. I mean, if anyone knows why that is, I mean, generally Greek food also was amazing. So I think I just loved Greece in general. I was like, yeah. You were in Croatia at the same time I was in Greece, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we went to Greece. So
Oh,
Croatia and then Montenegro, which was super interesting. And then over to Greece. And we did the islands, which was super fun, like kind of like little tiny islands and then a bigger one. But yeah, like I'll be going back, not to those same places, but like places that are close to there. But it was insane. Like, yeah, I could live there. I always say that. Could I live there?
I say that too. I think travel is one of those like things that makes your life just like fuller and better. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree.
So, I like to always ask people, not just even like life-changing things, but like favorite things, kind of like Oprah's favorite things, right? Like they are actual things, but I know everybody, if one thing came up, I'm curious, what would one thing be that's like a favorite thing that feels like you're taking care of yourself or that you're, I don't know. What's a favorite thing for you guys?
Molly,
mean,
is your mouth tape?
Is
I
that
love
one?
me some good mouth tape. That's at night. It's kind of like giving a baby a blanket. It's like it's time to go to sleep, and my brain just instantly unplugs, and it's like a blanket, like
Did
bam.
you read about that somewhere that
I
was like a
did.
good
I
thing?
listened to, several podcasts by who knows who, but they all claim we were dentists. So I was like, oh, okay, I am going to get this mouth tape. And, it kind of scares my husband because it's black. So he walks in and like my mouth is like taped up with black tape. But I believe it really is kinesio tape. Really, that's all it is. So I'm pretty sure you could go get yourself a roll of kinesio tape. Yeah, it's stretchy. I mean, if you want to yawn with it, it'll stay in place.
A little bit breathable, not really though. But the whole point of that, though, I guess, to just make so people understand, isn't the point of that you breathe through your nose and start deep breathing a little bit more? Isn't that the point of it?
And honestly, there was a lot of research because, I mean, I'm like you, I like research. And so there was a lot of research between that and Alzheimer's. And so
Mhm.
it's like, you know what? I know I'm going to live past 100, so I better do everything I can. And so that's why it started. And then my neighbor, like, she's always ahead of the trend. And I'm like, oh, she's doing it, so I'll do it. But I mean, I would say like the thing that brings me joy is the exact same thing that brings you joy. If you let me do anything, it would be, and we talk about this all the time, like go to a city and work out and go to 3 different studios. I love work. I love working out, and I especially love being outside. Like that's why to try and not be an endurance athlete is hard because I love swimming outside in the summer. I love being on my bike. I was driving to Pilates today and I just like was loving like all those miles I've ridden on my bike. Yeah, there's no shoulder on the road and all that, but I'm like, that just brings me such joy. And especially now seeing the tractors out there and the corn, and I don't know a dang thing about farming or anything, but it was just like, it brings me such joy. It really is my happy place. Like any movement, hiking, being on the water. I mean, just anything. And I love just how it's very empowering to me because it's just me that had to do it. So I would say that's
Yeah.
my one thing outside the mouth tape. Amy, what about you?
Yeah.
I love my red light blanket that I lay in every morning. Part of my morning routine is this blanket.
What does that do for you?
I always listen to my meditation there, my affirmations that I have on from Think Up. And for me, it just really relaxes me. I mean, I like to be warm, and then I use my fascia blaster after that.
Oh, my fascia blaster hit the dust. Calvin dropped it in the shower and it down to one little knob.
That's so interesting though, because I think like some of it is, are these things like, is the blanket doing anything? Maybe, maybe not, right? Like there's a lot, is the tape doing anything? Maybe, maybe not. But like the reality is I think that all of these things are just like a ritual that feel like a chance to kind of center or come back to just like a place of calm. Like for me, I love my cold plunge bathtub. And I know there's a lot of trendy things going on about cold plunges or whatever, but just so you know, I've been doing it for like way longer.
You had it way longer than before everybody else.
And I'm not putting stuff on TikTok about it. And like, I literally will get in there sometimes 4, 5, 6 times a day. It depends on what I'm doing it for, but like, I feel like it has saved my body, first of all. So like for inflammation, it has been just like a lifesaver, but also just like I feel like it makes my brain just have to come back to focus a little bit. I love it. And there's kind of a ritual to it for me also. I also feel like, I have a mug right here behind it's actually my Mill mug. I have like a mug of coffee, and I feel like I love the to-go stuff, but I think there's a whole piece of like actually I remember actually talking to a coach when I was with the Huskers about just actually you can ask for a mug when you go to Starbucks and they look at you like you're crazy, but there's something really great about just getting a mug and sitting with your coffee instead of like rushing out of there. And I feel like those are things that for me, like really I don't know, they bring me joy and they kind of center me a little bit, just, feeling like I'm grounded more. So yeah.
I remember that whole mug thing because that's what I wanted when I was working as a sports medicine physical therapist. And I remember saying, if I could just have 10 minutes in those chairs at Starbucks. And the thing that I loved at home is I didn't love the coffee because it kind of killed my stomach, to be honest. It's that I love that clink of the cup on the granite. Like that's what I loved.
Yeah.
And, and I know for a lot of my friends that have kids or something, they're like, coffee in a mug and I get 10 minutes of the Today Show. Like that's so restorative for my soul.
Oh, for sure.
So I agree. Any other fun rituals that you do? Anything that new in your life other than the glasses?
Yeah, the glasses is not by
Love the
choice.
glasses.
I mean, I have a lot of things that I love, like physically, right? Like I love the 8 sleep on my bed. I told you about that, which is like a temperature
8
controlled
sleep.
sleep mattress
Everyone needs
pad.
it.
And I love that because it just regulates like the temperature of the bed. I love that. You know, for me, I have a hard time like actually creating routines because I feel I'm all over the place, but I love any physical activity like you do. I mean, you know, I don't love to be outdoors as much with my physical activity. So, but I love classes. I will travel anywhere. Anytime we've gone to, you know, I have done fitness classes in other countries, like all over France and, you know, Germany, everywhere, Amsterdam. I go to those classes because I love to just experience what other people are doing in their places. And it feels like I'm part of that community immediately. I mean, you don't necessarily know what you're doing. So, I mean, I remember going to New York when I was actually researching classes for Fly, and I went to the studio. I don't even think they're open anymore. It's called Bari, Bari. And they had like bar classes first, but then they had like these mini trampoline classes. Have you heard of these? Where you're like, you know, basically jumping on the trampoline to the beat of the music. So you're like, and the beat of the music's going and you have to bounce. And I could not get it. So the lady came back and, you know, and I'm an athlete, I'm pretty fit. She had to come back and give me like this cord that hung from the ceiling so that I wouldn't like fall off my trampoline. And I was like, okay, this was the one class I don't think I really loved that much because I just could not I could not hang with how they were doing it. These people were like professional dancers on Meets mini trampoline. It was nuts. I was like, yeah. So, but for the most part, I love it.
Like
I did. I mean, I will always go.
Yeah.
I will always go. I've been to lots of hip hop. Pole dancing. Yeah. I've been to lots of like hip hop classes. My friend Sarah has studios in San Francisco, and like we've had hip hop classes here at Fly. But then I went to her hip hop classes at her studio called Euphoria. And again, like professional dancers, not even kidding. Cause it was like, I was blown away by the level of people's skill. And I just was like, this is crazy. And I'm back in the back, like trying to do what I do. I was like, I'm like doing the pony basically for 45 minutes. Like, please. Yeah. But I stayed in there. I was like, I think at the final place when we had to perform, we actually had to perform for each other in like rows of 5. I was like, I got to go to the bathroom. Like, no, I'm not doing this. Yeah. So
I think that's a good way to exit from that as well. I think I would have done the same thing. I think Amy would have as well. But that is who you are, Jenny. And I think that's what we wanted people to know about you today is just like, man, leap and the net will appear. I know that that's something I have in my office and it's so true. It's like, I didn't know how it was going to work out when I started Victory Lab, when I left law school, when I decided to go to Stanford, when I started Fly, when like all the things, right? All the things. And so that kind of leads us to our last question is, what does it mean to you to live in the penthouse? Because that's what we're all about is meet me in the penthouse. So penthouse living, give it to us.
I don't know how you can't think this is a mindset. I mean, I just feel like maybe it's actually for some people it is just like, oh, if I have all the finest things and whatever, but I just think you have to believe that you can you have to have a belief that you can do anything. And for whatever reason, my parents have asked me, you know, how did you even think you could go to Stanford? Like, I don't think we did a good job of instilling that in you. And I was like, I don't know, but I just believe I could. You know, for whatever reason, I think that with Fly, I just believed that this would be big. I believed that it would be successful. I believed I could do it more than anything, no matter what hard things come in the way, because as a business owner, they do, right? COVID was awful, but you always have to just have a belief that, and it doesn't have to be your whole self, because it rarely is your whole self that believes you can do it. But I think there's always been a piece of me that just thinks I'm born for bigger things than just working for somebody else somewhere else for the rest of my life. That I think I just have always had a piece of me. And when that piece is small, I have to just grow it. And when it's grown, then I hold on to it. And I just go with that. And I just think, like, no matter if I'm 100% certain, I got to jump in because I know that things will be okay. The universe will take care of me for the pieces I don't know. The answers will come if I'm not sure. And then I just go. I just have to go. So I just jump in, right? You have to jump into the deep end sometimes and know that you're going to be able to stay afloat. So it's a mindset.
So good. So good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love you. Thank you so, so much. You are, you're one of my top 5. You're one of my 5 people. You are. I always say that, but you are. So
I love that, Molly. That's because you and I are like the same human in so many ways.
Yes.
So we have the exact same history of life. So, we got to be top 5. So
you do.
I'm going to expect the 2 of you in class now that we've seen each other. I want to see you both in person.
Oh,
Yes.
I love it. And I did say, it was so cute. I said to our son, I go, I was the only one with my shirt on. And he goes, Mom, you could take your shirt off. You need to own that. And I was like, that is so sweet.
You.
Thank you.
I love
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
That's amazing. I love that. You should own that.
Love those kids cheering their moms on in their 50s. And so I can't wait to see you there. And I love you. And thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today for Meet Me in the Penthouse with Sisters Amy and Molly. Please rate and review. We love those 5-star ratings and would love to have you go to our website at sistersnextdoor.com.